Let's talk about the universe again. All right. Now, most of the things that human beings are going to talk about are unquantifiable. Like, we're not really going to have debates or arguments or whatever about this. Okay, this is a cup. It's got coffee in it. We're not really going to argue about that so much because it's empirical. When something's empirical, it's not allowed to argue about because we're all looking at the same thing, right? Now, you could take a statistical analysis of a sequence of events and then argue about the causality or consequence of what the numbers represent. But even that, when you're getting into causalities, you're generally getting into ambiguity. So, if most of what we experience, and experience is highly ambiguous, there's not a lot going on empirically in the nature of experience. So one of the things we need to address is the idea of proof. Because this idea gets tossed around quite liberally in all kinds of shit, you know, it's like the Bible's been proven. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, and that's just an example. You can't prove ambiguity because it's deeply subjective. So let's talk about what proof does mean. Okay. Now, proof is a construct from the realm of mathematics. That's it. That's all it fucking is. And it only applies inside the realm of mathematics. I could prove that 2 plus 2 equals 4 because if I start with 4 and I take 2 away, I got 2 left. That's mathematical proof. Now, we can extrapolate this into some other aspects of the experience that we're having, in that this physical plane that we're sitting in and experiencing a linear construct in is built on rules of physics. And math is a remarkable thing. We can take math and we can use it to map out phenomena and behaviors inside this physical space and look for patterns. And once you start to find the patterns, you can therefore start to create a mathematical model to quantify what's happening. And if that seems to stand up, you can create further models to create predictive models as to how something will come out. So that's how pretty much all technology works, right? We take the natural phenomena of the physical universe and create mathematical constructs to map that behavior, and then further mathematical constructs to predict behavior, right? So that's how we can make, you know, a car. You know what I mean? Or you take some, you know, ridiculous alien-like visionary like Elon Musk, and he's going to slap together, you know, these ideas and a bunch of money and a bunch of people that are geniuses in their field, and they're going to make some, like, you know, fucking rocket ship, and it's like, and it's going to go up the atmosphere and like, whips through space and gets over to like Mars and enters the atmosphere and hovers there and like lowers down habitat units for people to live in, and they're gonna have all these fucking robots, and they're gonna be like drilling holes in the Martian surface and like sucking all the shit out of the holes, and then the computer systems are gonna analyze that and compile data sets and composition and moisture, and then they're gonna like fucking email the shit out into fucking space, and then the Earth is gonna fucking be patrolling by while these waves of information are going. The satellite dishes are gonna be like, got it, boom. It's gonna recompile the data, and it's gonna like put that shit on fucking Twitter. You can read about it. And that all works because the universe is built on physics. And we can use math to model the behavior of the physical universe, and then use math to create models that predict it. And once we can predict it, we can build machines that allow us to work within it and do more shit. And everything outside of that, proof is useless. Because everything outside of that is ambiguity. And ambiguity is a complex thing for people. Because we're taking information in subjectively, and then we try to express it in an objective manner. And those objectivities cannot line up with other people's objectivities because they're structured off of subjectivity. So let's take, for example, an ambiguous concept. I mean, you take the word like God, but that's like so ridiculously ambiguous. You're going to get a billion different fucking definitions of that. It's basically horseshit. Let's take an idea like love. When I'm a child, you know, some teacher is teaching you vocabulary skills and like, oh, love, and there's a definition. And then you're going to equate the things that you experience in your life that seem to be consistent with this definition that this teacher has taught you. And you call these things love. And then at some point later in your life, I'm talking to somebody and I say, oh, love. And the things that I'm experiencing in my head that I'm equating to this definition I read as a child are then going through some like nervous impulses down to like this muscle structure in here, and it projects wind out of here, and then I make the sound love, and it goes through vibrations and this atmospheric bubble that we're living in while we're floating through space, and it's gonna hit your ear, and then these like little mechanisms in there, and they pick up that vibration and they send a signal to your brain, and the vibration sounds like the word love. And then in your head, you're taking everything that you've associated with this idea and this construct of love, and you're processing that through your subjectivity, and you're like, oh, love. But there's no way to empirically convey what I'm experiencing and I'm feeling when I use the word love in a way that when you hear that, you're going to experience what I'm feeling. It's just not the way we're built. I mean, we can experience it. I can say, ooh, here, this is a cup. You want to hold the cup? And you're going to touch it. That's pretty empirical. We can relate on that level. But when you're dealing with things like emotions and experiences and perceptual constructions, ideological concepts, like the word proof doesn't belong there. And when people apply the word proof to things, it's like saying, you're fucking wrong. I have proof. And we know the idea of proof is bullshit because even in a court of law, you know what I mean? Like, you present arguments, you provide evidence. It's pretty difficult outside of being able to empirically prove something that something worked out a certain way that it did, right? That's why, you know, like in the Western concept of the word is like guilty beyond the reasonable doubt, because it's almost impossible to provide proof of something that you can't quantify. And your experience is not quantifiable. Your experience is deeply subjective. So, in approaching the universe, in that there's all these other life forms in it, and we're having a shared experience in that we're on this physical plane together, that ambiguity should quite potentially be treated as that. Ambiguity. Maybe it's good to not speak so much in definitive articles. You are, I am, that is, right, wrong, proven. It would seem to me that this is what's happening. Like, how less divisive is that? Do you agree with that? Well, it's not entirely wrong. That speaking in, not even speaking, but thinking in less definitive terms allows things to be more flexible. The more we try to make things rigid, the harder it is to get along with other things. And that's more conflict, that's more suffering. It's like we are the universe experiencing itself subjectively, right? If everything is made of universe, I mean, the idea of non-existence is probably something to talk about in a different video, because it's, a construct unto its own. But if you're adherent or even open to the concept of non-existence, that's probably a whopping majority of people would be if, they're versed on, let's say, something like Buddhism or Hinduism, existential nihilism, shit like that. But if you take non-existence as a concept, then things can become easier. We are the universe, experiencing itself subjectively. I don't really exist. I'm a compilation of phenomena that's coming together and happening. And it, you know what I mean? It'll start and it'll end. Didn't really go anywhere, it just changes. There is no me. I am just an experience created by the universe, within the universe. Experiencing itself subjectively. I think that's beautiful. There's no Charles. He doesn't exist. There's just an experience. There's a consciousness at play that has created a set of conditions and a construction that names itself Charles, and therefore it believes that it's real, but it's not. It's just the universe itself looking at itself through the experience of this middle-aged 99% white guy living in Canada that's had the experiences that it's had, and that's all that is. I was never born, I just changed, and I will never die, I will just change. And in reality, there is no I. That's a mind fuck, right? You don't exist. Neither do I. So if we're going to talk about the universe, I think it's good to avoid trying to quantify that which is truly ambiguous. Unless we're talking about something that we can strictly express mathematically. Let's not treat it as right. Let's not treat it as correct. Let's not treat it as proven. Maybe it's a good idea to treat it simply as an expression of the way you've perceived something. The perception is a tricky mechanism because the ego wants so desperately to experience this linear construction that moves from A to B, and it has a chronological sequence of events and a story. And fuck, it's real! But it's not. So, you got these senses, right? Like vision and taste and smell, shit like that. And all this stuff goes into the brain, which is just an organism. The brain is not the mind. It's just a coagulation of tissue. And even what you can see. You can only see objects that are relevant to the size of your eye. Like, you can't see a dust mite. You know, you can't see a fucking supercluster in the galaxy. There are things that are way too big and things that are way too small. And even then, we can only see certain spectrums of light. Right? Like, we can't see fucking infrared and ultraviolet and all this shit. The same goes for hearing, right? So, the information that's coming in is already very limited to all of the information that's happening. And then it goes into your, you know, your brain from your senses, which construct this image or data. And you have genetic predispositions. You got deep, deep, deep cultural subconscious programming. And those are filters. And that's filtered even further yet by predominantly negative experiences you've had in your life, which, you know, would range between varying degrees of trauma, which make you be like, ah, that's dangerous, or that's a certain way to take that. And it goes through all these fucking filters. So you have a limited set of information, heavily filtered, and the brain compiles all this into an image or a sequence of events. And it calls the mind up. It's like, mind, what's up? Brain here. I got a fucking reality. I'm gonna fax it over to you, bro. And the mind's like, oh shit, a reality. I've always wanted one of those. Oh, this must be real. But it's not real. It's an interpretation of a limited set of information based upon something that's wildly complex and is much bigger and at the same time much smaller than you can fucking see. So how can you take an idea like proof and affirmative concepts, right? Like, this is so flexible. We don't know shit. We don't. I mean, a couple hundred years ago, the bulk of the human population thought the planet was fucking flat. Some fucking people still think it's fucking flat. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Oh, it's part of a global conspiracy. What would be the benefit of the conspiracy amongst the people controlling 7.5 billion people to think that the planet's fucking flat? I don't see the fucking benefit here. Maybe I'm off topic. Certainly possible. Anyway. Moving forward. I think moving forward, I think we need to look at things in a flexible manner. And the more flexible the ideas and the experiences, we're going to have a lot less to argue about. Certainly we can have debates. It's good to engage people that have experienced things differently than you, because it widens your field of view. I think one of the most dangerous things happening in the world today is the echo chamber. And there's so many, I mean, I think it happens a lot more on the left, but it's certainly happening at an increasing rate on the right, politically, culturally, I'm speaking, of people just wanting to surround themselves with people that only see things the same way they do, that only think the same things they do, that only say the same things they do. And it's fucking dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Like right now, whatever, early September, whatever, don't know the date, I'm kind of done with that. Lucky if I know what day of the week it is half the fucking time. forget my head wasn't stuck up my ass usually. On America, right now, American soil, like, they're burning down cities. They're killing each other. Because you get these two factions that are so wrapped up in wanting everyone to think the way they think, speak the way they speak. Do you see how dangerous that is? The echo chamber? You need a diversity of thoughts, a diversity of experiences, a diversity of opinions, a diversity of feelings to create a more widespread discussion and understanding. And if you try to make everyone act the same way, think the same way, believe the same way, this is what happens. And look at the history. You know what I mean? Like, different religious communities demanding the same thing. It's homogenization of the mind. And it always ends the same way. People slaughtering each other. Those who do not read history are doomed to repeat it. Anyway, let's leave it at that. I got sidetracked. I do that a lot. I don't have a very good attention span. I mean, I think my attention span's really good. My girlfriend says it's shit. What are you gonna do? She's probably right. Anyway, please be a student of your own karma. And then, talk to you soon.